Alright, in this video I'm going to be talking about how to mix a song. I'm going to take you behind the scenes on everything that I'm doing and just kind of show you the whole process. So here we go. Alright, so I'll go ahead and play the mix that I already have done just to kind of hear what the final product is going to sound like, and then I'm going to take you through the whole entire process of how I mix this song. So here's what it sounds like right now.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break a sweat. I remember 3 a.m., but I give it to the I am. I'm feeling way up, now I gotta pray for them.
Okay, so that's just a little snippet of a song I'm working on for my EP right now. So now I'm going to take you behind the scenes of everything going on here. So let's do it. This is what my song sounds like before mixing.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break a sweat.
Definitely need some work. So the first thing that I like to do is play around with the volume before I add any effects. And I like to try to match the vocal with the volume of the beat. So we're gonna kind of do that.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break a sweat.
That sounds good to me, and you can always change that later. Alright, so here is where we start getting into the big scary words of mixing. Don't worry, it sounds complicated at first, but it's actually not that hard to understand. It's more just it takes time to master this and fully learn what you're doing. I've been doing this for about 3 years now, and I still am learning something every time I mix. So it's a big learning curve, but I'm going to try to walk you through it. So first thing I'm going to add is just a little bit of auto-tune. This isn't technically mixing, this is just tuning your vocals. I always add this on the first slot. Alright, so basically the way this effects chain works is this effect on top is always going to be applied before the effect below it. If I add auto-tune on top and then, let's say, reverb on the bottom, it is going to take my dry vocal and auto-tune it and then apply the reverb. I'm going to add a reverb so I can show you what I'm talking about. If I were to swap these two around, my dry vocal first gets reverb and then it'll try to tune it. So that's always something to keep in mind. The order of these does matter. Alright, so now I'm just going to quick tune my vocals.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break a sweat. I remember 3 a.m., but I give it to the I am. I'm feeling way up now.
Alright, that sounds good to me. So a lot of people debate on whether you should throw in an EQ or a compressor first. It's kind of situational, but I typically put an EQ on. Alright, so this is what your EQ looks like. I know it looks scary. I promise you it's not that bad. Alright, so basically this is a graph, and down here we have the lowest frequencies, and up here is the highest frequency. So if I play this, you can see that.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break a sweat.
So as you can see, a lot of the vocal exists in this region. There's not much going on down here. So what I like to do is do something called a high pass filter, and this will basically just take away a lot of this low end. You can't really hear it, but it does muddy up the mix a little bit. So I usually take this from around 50 to 100 hertz.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't.
If you can start audibly hearing this step, that means you've overdone it and should back it down, and I'll show you what I mean by that.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't.
So as you could hear there for a second, you could start hearing the effect of that, which means you're doing too much. Alright, so for the first EQ, I do something called subtractive EQ, and basically what I'm trying to do is take away the bad frequencies before I compress it. That way when it's compressed, it has a cleaner signal. I'm going to do something called sweeping, and you basically take one of these bands and crank it up and make it kind of narrow like this, and I play the vocal and just sweep this back and forth and listen for any frequencies I don't like.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I.
So right here, this sounds really boxy to me. So I'm going to narrow this down and then cut it by around 3 decibels, something like that.
Higher than I ever been.
And then I'm going to do this just a few more times.
higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break a sweat. I remember 3 a.m. higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break a sweat. I remember 3 a.m., but I give it to the I am. Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break a sweat.
Alright, so as you can see, I just made some really gentle, small cuts. A lot of beginners make this mistake where they think every plugin they add has to completely change how the vocals sound. But actually, as you gain more experience, you realize small changes here and there add up in the end. So even if you just add an EQ and just take a few cuts away from this, it does help. Even though when your ear is untrained, you can't always hear it. But I will play this with the EQ on and the EQ off, and let me know if you can hear it or not.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break a sweat.
So just to me, the vocal sounds a little bit cleaner that way. The next step is to compress. I will probably have to make a video eventually going in depth because there's a lot to compression. But the basics of it is evening out the volume of the vocals. If I look at my vocal here, I have some parts that are like a little bit louder and then some parts that are like quieter. So the compressor tries to even that out so it's just more present. The vocal stands out a little bit more. So I'm gonna add one of my favorite compressors, the CLA2A. And I just like to play around with this peak reduction. You don't want to squash the vocal too much, but you also don't want to not give it enough, you know? This is probably one of the hardest things to learn is how to properly do this. So I'm just going to show you and then kind of explain what I did afterwards.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break a sweat. I remember 3 a.m., but I give it to the I am. I'm feeling way higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break a sweat. I remember 3 a.m., but I give it to the I am. I'm feeling way.
Alright, so I basically played around with the peak until the vocal sound controlled, but it wasn't smushed. And I'll show you what this is what smushing a vocal sounds like.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so
you can hear that it got really quiet, and that just means you're adding too much. When you're mixing, you don't want to just look up people's settings and copy and paste them because every mix is different. So yeah, I basically just waited till the vocal sound controlled but not too smushed, and then I adjust the gain to bring it back to the volume level that I had it at before. So here is with and without compression.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break a sweat. I remember 3 a.m., but I give it to the I am. I'm feeling way up, now I gotta pray for them.
After I compress, I usually add another EQ. Depending on what compressor you use, it can introduce some bad frequencies, but it also can introduce good frequencies. So you kind of just want to sort through those.
Higher than I ever been.
So as you can see, a little bit of that rumble came back. So I am going to EQ that out again, and I'm going to do a steeper cut this time.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break a sweat. I remember.
I think the vocal's sounding pretty good, but I'm hearing a little bit of boxiness down in this low mid. So I'm going to do another sweep and try to hear for that.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break.
And I found it. That sounds a lot cleaner now.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break a sweat.
You can either add or subtract frequencies. This is all by ear. Right now, I think I'm good on the high frequencies. I don't think I need to boost any of them. Alright, this vocal is actually sounding pretty good already. Now, if you listen, there's something called sibilance, and that's like the S sounds. There's a little bit too much, just a little bit too much. So I'm going to slap on something called a de-esser. And this is basically the EQ like we just put on, but it's only for specific frequencies where the S sounds are. And I'm just going to reduce those just a little bit.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my.
If you do too much, it makes it sound like you have a lisp. So Yeah, don't do that.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break a sweat. I remember 3 a.m., but I give it to the I am.
Now sometimes while I'm mixing, I like to like turn all of my effects off and then listen to how it started versus how it's going. So we're gonna do that real quick.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking.
So yeah, definitely sounding way better. The vocal is pretty much mixed, but it's still sounding like a little bit boring, I guess you could say. So we're gonna add some just creative effects, and this part is really a creative process. I don't think you always have to add delay like people say you do, but in this case for like a rap song I probably will. But this stage, after the mix is done and the vocal's sitting well, then you kind of want to just spice it up a little bit and add some effects. So we're going to do that. We're going to add some reverb. We do not actually put the reverb on here, and I'll show you why. So if I solo this vocal with the reverb,
higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine.
You can hear that the vocal lost a lot of its depth that we just worked for. So putting the reverb on this track actually kind of just undoes everything we just mixed. So instead, we take this lead vocal and we're going to route it to another track, which is already done. And I'm going to name this reverb. Alright, and basically what this does is it's going to duplicate our vocal signal, and then we add reverb on here. And that way, we still have our main vocal that is mixed well, and then it's going to duplicate that and add a vocal with reverb. And then we can just turn it down. So I like to take this dry knob down by quite a lot.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break a sweat. I remember 3 a.m., but I give it to the I am.
A little more decay.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break a sweat.
Alright, so once you have that kind of tuned to how you like, then we just start pulling it down because you don't want the reverb that noticeable.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break a sweat. I remember 3 a.m., but I give it to the I am.
I don't know if you can hear the difference in that, but I sure can. And then next we are going to add some delay. And I put it on ping pong setting, which basically what that does, it bounces the delayed vocal from your left ear to your right ear back and forth and just kind of adds more depth.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break a sweat. I remember 3 a.m.
So I just turn it down quite a bit. And this is what our vocal is sounding like right now.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break a sweat.
I think the delay is a little bit too loud, so I'm gonna pull this down.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break a sweat. I remember 3 a.m., but I give it to the I am. I'm feeling way up, now I gotta pray for them.
Oh yeah, if you didn't know, if you want your vocals to be mixed by me, I just opened up a Fiverr page. My prices are super cheap. Like, I'm talking $15 for a mix. Like, you're not gonna find that price anywhere else. And I'm not gonna claim I'm a professional, but I mean, you're watching me mix right here. So if you think this sounds good, then go ahead and visit that Fiverr page. I'll mix your vocals for you. And just like that, you have mixed your first song. Yeah, don't forget, check out my Fiverr page, and here's the final product.
Higher than I ever been. I ain't talking medicine. Jesus taking all my sins, so I ain't even break a sweat. I remember 3 a.m., but I give it to the I am. I'm feeling way up, now I gotta pray for them.